And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily, joined by Harrison Fagan, who is apparently going to try to defend Rob Pelinka based off of the name that he has written underneath him. Harrison, I'm going to start by, I think, pretty succinctly summing up the general response to the offseason so far. Are you ready?
I've never been more ready for anything.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
What the fuck?
Did you miss it? Because I could do it again.
No, I don't know. I actually disagree. I think LeBron's loving this offseason. He doesn't have to actually take his pay cut,
That's probably true. Well, I don't
they
think
didn't get
he doesn't have to take his pay cut.
superstars like Klay Thompson, Jonas Valanciunas.
Today on the show, honestly, today's going to be just kind of a vent session. I'm going to let you guys vent in the comments. I'm going to vent. Harrison is going to, I was, in preparation for the show, I texted you, Harrison. I messaged you to see if you could do the show. And then I realized, God, with everything going on, this might be a mistake because there is literally nobody better on the face of this planet at poking and prodding me and getting me to just go to level 11. And we'll see where that takes us. I'm a little nervous for how this goes. But yeah, today on the show, we're going to be talking about the offseason to this point. We'll talk about the lack of activity here from the Lakers. We'll talk about Bronny and Dalton Connect being introduced at the Lakers facility today, and Rob Pelinka's answers when asked about the idea of trading picks and the offseason to this point. He didn't seem to love those questions. It didn't appear. We'll talk about LeBron being present for his son's introductory press conference. I have some thoughts on Bronny, very clearly needing to get some media training because he hasn't had it to this point. We have a whole bunch that we're going to talk about, Harrison, and here's where I want to start. Beyond LeBron James asking what the fuck, but from your perspective, because you are now a step or few removed from all of this, I am still tortured by this organization, but you can back away. If it's annoying you, you can pay attention.
Thank God.
Yeah, you can pay attention to the other team sites that are covering teams that have actually done stuff this offseason. So from your perspective, how would you summarize this offseason to this point? How do you think the Lakers are faring?
Anthony, it's a good question, Anthony. And if I'm to get into the head of Rob Pelinka, I think what I have to say is that, there is a second apron now. And, I don't know what that means, but it is there. And it sounds scary. So,
yeah.
I'm just going to sort of talk we live in a second apron world. There used to be, you could just wear one apron when you were making food or cooking up this roster or whatever. Now there's two options. And so that's a lot of sartorial optionality, that we as the Lakers try to pride ourselves on making, not the first decision, not the second decision, but the right decision. And so, and the other thing that you have to look at, the proportionality of an NBA roster does not change just because you draft, your star son's kid. There's still only 15 roster spots. And I'm going to remind you as the media, because I think sometimes the media forgets this. NBA teams only get 15 roster spots. And right now, the Lakers, if they were to sign anyone, would literally be telling LeBron to go away because they could not roster him. They wouldn't have the room, or take a two-way contract, which I don't think he's eligible for. I'm 99% sure.
He is not.
And so maybe not even under the second apron, which again, I don't know what that means. But I think, again, it's a great question that you ask, but I feel like now I have used enough words to sound smart while sort of not really answering it at all. And, I will say, if there's a perfect deal, I would expect the Lakers to put in draft picks for it. Now, perfect deals almost never happen. So, that gives me like a lot of cover. That gives, I think the Lakers like a lot of cover here where, if
the Lakers, yeah.
if time travel Jerry Krause doesn't offer them prime Michael Jordan, I think that's a good excuse to hold on to both picks. You can't, it's like Rob Pelinka says, you can't buy a house that's not for sale. Unless you come in and you offer that person way more money than the house is worth, then maybe you could. But again, in this new second apron world, I'm just not sure that is feasible. And so I think what the Lakers have to do is they got to focus on
Focify. No, I like Focify.
Yeah, they got to focify. They got to focify on.
They're going to gamify their focus. They're going to focify.
They have to gamify player development through phone-based deliverables. Okay, and so that means every single day they're waking up, listening. You gotta click a little box on your phone to say you listen to the Mind the Game podcast, and that is how you sort of it's like you have your phone instead of just like writing it down. You have your phone. It tells you it's like, hey, go get up some jumpers today, and then you get like a Laker coin. Do
you think Rob is like, all right, we need to develop this app that has what are we gonna call them? It's like when you need to remember something and it needs to alert you to that thing that you remember. What could we what would we send these people? What could this app do to alert people to something that they need to remember to do? Rob, are you talking about alerts? Alerts. There it is. Can we make an app that does
That's why
alerts?
We hired this guy, JJ, always ahead of the game.
Harrison, I'm gonna sum up the summer to this point for you. Some of this, most of this is already known. Most of this is already like out there and readily available to everybody. So the Lakers to this point, in terms of personnel, the only move that they have made is giving a player who has played all of like part of one season, $8 million a year for the next 4 years. And I like Max Christie, but that's a lot of money for somebody who has barely played in his 2 years of being on the Lakers. By the way, they only had to do that because Rob Pelinka fumbled his contract in the first place, and they had to pay him a year early. So you have that going on.
The NBA now has the Pelinka rule where, they have saved Rob from himself. You no longer have to use even a tiny little fraction of the MLE to, extend a second round pick that you believe in past 2 years on one of those scam contracts that every other team signs. But the Lakers are like, no, we don't want to lock up money for that long. We're not sure if this guy, it's fine. It's not like, Anthony, it's not like they just had to pay Austin Reeves last summer due to the same situation. These are hard things,
Yeah. Do you think
it's the second apron?
Do you think Ted Stepien is like proud of the fact that rule is named after him?
I would assume Ted Stepien is not with us anymore.
Or do you think he was proud of it? Like when they created the rule, because it was like, Ted.
I don't know. I don't know for a fact. I'm pretty sure he's not, though.
So like the reason that the Ted Stepien rule exists is because the Lakers were able to draft James Worthy because the Cleveland Cavaliers basically gave them a pick that became the second or whatever first. I think it was the second overall pick.
I believe it was
in that trust. It might have been first. I don't know. Do you think Ted Stepien is like proud of the fact that he was so bad at his job that the league had to create a rule and then name that rule after him because he was so bad at his job that rule was created? And now you fast forward to Rob Pelinka, where this second round contract thing, it is technically the Pelinka rule. I think that should be named for, after him from here on out. I somehow just don't think you're doing your job very well if they're naming rules to help you out after you.
People will probably call it the Reeves rule or something. It's like sort of like the Arenas rule, free agency thing. Like it's probably that's what's gonna catch on, I would imagine.
No, I hope it's the Pelinka rule.
Me too, but I don't think so.
Yeah. So the other thing that happened in terms of personnel added or subtracted from the team since the draft is absolutely dick. Nothing has happened. Not a single thing has happened since the NBA draft. Not a thing. And technically, if you go back to the
Well,
draft,
I think Cam Reddish picked up his option since then.
oh,
I think
God,
that was technically
that's a
chronologically
good point.
after. Right?
That was the other thing. That last year,
Cam was waiting until draft night. He's like, I just want to see if a spot opens up somewhere. I
I
want
need
to have that
find
level of optimism where I'm Cam Reddish and I'm like, you know what? I think something above the minimum might open up for me if the draft shakes out.
or
right
the
way.
minimum. Like the probably like
Yeah,
I think
I mean, fair.
But no, like remember last year where I was telling the audience how like if you need to give a player option to Cam Reddish in order to sign him, then you just don't sign Cam Reddish because eventually that decision could come back to bite you in the ass. Or how I said the same thing about Jackson Hayes, or how I said the same thing about Christian Wood. Hey, Harrison, could you fill me in here? Have those decisions come back to bite the Lakers in the ass? Are they under a roster crunch right now?
The Wood one is the funniest because who were they even competing against? No one had roster spots left at that point.
No, I think Wood was choosing between them and another team, but like
I
digress.
You know what? You're right. It might have been the Bucks, but still.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's still same analysis. I think it still stands. The Lakers now only have a roster spot for LeBron whenever he opts into whatever contract he opts into. Those decisions wind up biting the Lakers in the butt. Like, and then now, the thing, what's funny? The clause in the NBA that Rob should be citing that is actually giving them real problems right now is that under this new CBA, you can't stack veteran minimum contracts in a trade. Because it used to be you would just throw those three guys into a trade.
For sure. That's got I think we got to call that one the Ballmer rule.
No, somebody was saying Yossi was actually saying that it had to do with the Celtics, actually, that they were able to they basically signed a bunch of people at the end of the year to minimum contracts with like an extra year on them. And then they stacked those contracts and that enabled them to trade, I believe, for either Derek White or Drew Holiday, one of those two. And so
it couldn't have been Derek White because he was a midseason trade. But yeah, I mean, you might be right. I just think functionally the rule is made to prevent people like Ishbia and Ballmer from doing what you're talking about, where you stack up a couple $3 million contracts and you can get a $9 million guy.
Yeah, it used to be like with minimum contracts when they were like $1 million and change, you couldn't really do much to stack them up. But now that they're upwards of $3 million, like you can actually get a fairly meaningful player at that number when you add a few of them together. We haven't heard any mention of that. If he actually wants to get into the weeds and explain what has ailed them this offseason, that I think would be a big one, because even if it isn't like combining those expiring contracts and getting an impact player back, you could have sent those three players to Detroit or to Charlotte or wherever together with some draft capital, and you would have opened up roster spots without costing yourself money this upcoming season. But with that not being an option, and color me absolutely shocked that Rob Pelinka would lack foresight on this scenario. But like it would be one thing if you gave the player options and you knew that, or you didn't know that this clause in the CBA was coming, and and like it was just like, you were shocked by it in the end. But no, like the Lakers appear to have not known that this was coming, and now they can't move off of these contracts. And now when they try to sit down with free agents, their agent is basically asking them like, where are you going to put me? Like, come back to me when you actually have roster spots that you can offer my client. It's just so anyway. So going back to what the Lakers haven't done, they were in a 2-dog race between them and the Dallas Mavericks for Klay Thompson, whose father won 2 championships for the Lakers and is currently the color commentator on ESPN's flagship radio station, whatever it is, ESPN 710, to do those games. They didn't get him, weren't able to convince him to go, even though, Harrison, they were offering an additional year and more money per year to sign him. He said, nope, we're good. He goes to Dallas instead. And now they're kind of stuck. Now they're, for a little while, there was some buzz about DeMar DeRozan. It's new kind Rust of a what's that? Yeah.
New Rust
2.0. Yeah. Hell yeah. It's the remix.
Let's go. Run it back. Run it back. Run it back. No spacing. Let's
The
do it. 3 alphas.
DeRozan, I know Lakers fans, again, fooled themselves into thinking that he would sign for the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. He is not interested in doing that. It looks like he's going to go where whatever team offers him the most money. As of
Okay,
right
so
now,
can
it
you
seems
explain
like
this
it's
to
going
me,
to be the
though?
Heat.
Okay. I mean, maybe they will, I guess then. Maybe there is that sign and trade market for him, out there, whatever. But that was the thing that was confusing me about the Chris Haynes report, where he was like, DeMar, he's not settling for the taxpayer mid-level or non-taxpayer mid-level. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, does DeMar, like, who does he think he's signing
Does he
with
know he
then?
have a choice?
Yeah, like
Does he
what
know he
team
doesn't
is
have a
offering
choice?
him more than that? But I guess, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is a team sort of willing to, go and trade assets for a sign and trade and hard cap themselves.
Yeah, the Heat have basically been operating as if the 3-point line doesn't exist anyway. So DeMar DeRozan actually makes a bunch of sense there. And now we stand here. JJ Redick was announced going on a week ago. He was actually in place a week and a half ago. Depending on who you talk to, we're going on 2 weeks of JJ Redick being in house and putting together plans to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. No assistant coaches have been hired. Summer League practices, Harrison, actually got underway today. Today was the first day of Summer League practices, and they are being, the people who were involved are the coaching staff from last year's South Bay Lakers, which, no offense to them, I'm sure they are very good at their jobs.
I
And
mean,
I'm
to be
sure
fair, it probably would have been a lot of them anyway for the summer league
no, not
roster.
if you had assistant coaches in place. Like,
A
those
lot of the
coaches would have been.
it would have been like the behind the bench, like the lead assistants are not generally doing summer league either.
I think in the first year of them being together, I think that there's an argument to be made that, especially with a rookie head coach, a rookie coach.
I mean, I suppose it's possible, but my guess is like the names that you've heard of are not the guys that would have been coaching summer league, I guess is what I'm saying.
They aren't going to be coaching any league for the Lakers.
Yeah,
The names that we've heard so far. Do you want me to go through that list too? That's a fun list. So initially,
Anthony, I'm sorry, I got to cut you off here. Like the thing, that I think that you're not understanding about Rob Pelinka's perspective. I'm not sure that you're being entirely fair. Like it is hard to make trades. It is hard to sign players. It's hard to hire coaches. It's just hard. Life is hard. And I think that we should have a little bit more empathy for that. Sometimes, like, have you ever been at a job where you're like, I'm not qualified for this? Oh, man.
Yeah. All right. I want to be real on this front too. I'm just going to come out and say something that might come back to bite me in the ass eventually. Rob Pelinka.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've been so complimentary to the Lakers. I think you being critical might cost you sources.
It's true. It's true. Yes, Joe Harrison is trolling. But no, I'm so sick of hearing how difficult it is. Like Mr.
I was so disappointed that he didn't like give like a more of an excuse today when he was talking about the trade stuff. Like no joke, I'm pretty sure he saw my tweet making fun of that he was going to make an excuse again and talk about how hard it was. Because he finally didn't today. And I'm like, now I'm mad at myself for sending that yesterday, because it would have been very funny if today he had just been like, well, Dave, the thing that you got to understand, it's great. And again, it's a great question, Dave. But you got to understand is that trades are hard. Signings are hard. Hiring coach is hard. All this is hard. You don't understand because you don't work in the media. It's hard. My job is very hard. I deserve to make a lot of money. It doesn't matter if I get it done or not. It's just hard. I just want everyone to understand that this is, very difficult. These are relatable problems.
So he's making $15 million a year.
People are really mean to me on the internet. I don't know if you understand that.
Yeah. I will say, like, having watched today's YouTube stream and seen the comments that were going into the Lakers like official YouTube page, I feel a lot better about my mentions. I feel like but anyway, so no, what I was going to say about Rob is the guy has his job because of his relationship to Kobe. That's it. Like we can just we can be straight up about that.
I feel like
Kobe was there. Kobe was their first choice. Kobe told them to hire Rob. Told Jeanie to hire Rob. And on this front, Rob is always preaching Kobeisms, right? Mama mentality, no excuses, get your job done. No excuse, like we are a championship or bust organization. All of these things that sound great, when you say them in a room by yourself and you're not held to account whether or not you actually live up to those mantras. And so, like, for Mr. Mamba Mentality here and Rob Pelinka to keep on telling us how difficult his job is, it's just like, what? Hold on. Like, of course we know your job is difficult. Of course I know that it's tough to convince other really, really smart people out there to help you make your team better. Of course I fucking know that, Rob. Of course I know. Like, that should go without saying. That's why you're paid $15 million a year. If your job is really difficult, Rob, why don't you hire a goddamn general manager? Why do you have both of those jobs? Is that a possibility? Hey, Lakers, Jeanie, Linda, Kurt, anybody, you guys are just sitting around here acting as if this is okay. It's not okay.
I mean, they have, it, depending on how you want to look at it, and your sourcing on this would be better than mine, but how I've always viewed it is, Anthony, they have two people doing the jobs. Just one of them is Kurt Rambis, and his official title is senior advisor.
Sure. And you know what? It's smart of Kurt to like maintain that plausible.
That's what I mean. Pay no attention to the senior advisor behind the curtain,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure like you know what I've missed this offseason so far is like which unpaid consultants the Lakers are bringing in. We brought in Phil. Here's what he thought about this. Oh, we brought in Magic. Here's what we brought in Coach K. This idea that
one of them's going to find out that they paid a consulting fee to one of the other ones, but only them, and get really mad about it.
Yeah. Like, no, Phil would demand that he made $1 more than Coach K. Like a single dollar more. But it's just like, I'm just, the idea that Rob thinks that he is like gaining himself any goodwill from the fans by telling us that his job is difficult is so asinine. It probably works on Jeanie. It probably works.
That's just because you're not empathetic, Anthony. I have some sympathy. I mean, work is tough. Living in 2024 is hard.
It is. It is
capitalism.
Difficult. Well, like, all
it's
right.
hard.
Could you imagine if I basically sat here, if somebody asked me in one of those moments that I missed a story or something like that, if I had tweeted out, if I had tweeted out, guys, I'm sorry for getting that one wrong, this job is hard, do you think that would earn me anything? I have a fucking dream
like, Anthony,
job.
We got a super comment. Why isn't the show better? Well, guys, it's really hard to make a good show. You and I, like, we legitimately hold positions that like people dream of. Like the fact that we get to horse around and talk or write about sports or help other people write about sports. What we do is a legitimate dream job. And so if at any point we said that like, we couldn't do a very important aspect of our job, a core aspect of our job because it's difficult, who wouldn't care to hear that? Our audience, our readers, our employers. But the thing is here, Harrison, his employer doesn't seem to care. Doesn't seem like it, after last year's deadline where they didn't do anything, a team that has LeBron James and Anthony Davis playing at an all NBA caliber was eliminated in the first round in quick order and had to get to that first round by way of two play-in games. Was it two? It was one play-in game. No, just one. Yeah. Could have been two if they had lost the first one.
Yeah. And so like, once again, they were mostly mediocre despite LeBron James and Anthony Davis doing things like in LeBron's case that we have literally never seen before in the sport. And the response to that was to merely fire the coach. That was it. That was like, that's our whole problem. Our whole problem is the coach and the coaching staff. We haven't replaced the coaching staff. So apparently they aren't going to address that issue until it absolutely behooves them, even though that area, that part of the year passed already. Like, it is insane that this guy is so clearly unfit for this position. And at no point is this guy facing any accountability whatsoever. Coming off of last year, I asked point blank people in the organization, is his seat warming up? No. I asked again
Didn't he
today.
get an
Hey,
extension last offseason?
it lined up
Or
with
was it early this season?
Darvin's. I think he and Darvin
Yeah.
both got 4-year extensions at the same time. I asked this season, as this is all going on, hey, this reflects pretty poorly on leadership here. Is there anything like, is his seat warming up at all? Nope. He's doing great. What are you talking about? What? Huh?
So
Like, under which definition is this okay? Not even like this has been a failure. It's been a disaster. The Lakers are in a division where one team lost Paul George, the other team lost Klay Thompson, and the Lakers have still managed to have the worst offseason in their division. How does that happen? What are we doing?
yeah. The part that kills me is that, remember last offseason when they talked about, they're like, well, if we would have just had more time to gel and like a full training camp together, just, watch out, we'd be cooking with gas. And they prioritized that continuity, and they did all that. Then this year, it didn't work out, obviously, in the first round. And then this year, they're like, well, we want to make upgrades, but there's plenty of time to make trades, and we could do that. And like, they're heading towards the exact same thing that they did with the Russell Westbrook contract in the second year, where they're like, it's fine. We can just overhaul the team with the 2 picks in February and then just like ramp up and try to go really sprint for the playoffs. And, I don't think it's 1-to-1 situations, because this roster is still, better and more better fitting than that one was. But, so they ideally they wouldn't have as much ground to make up. But the West is also probably better than it was that year.
Yeah.
And, just from top to bottom, I mean, in terms of teams competing for a playoff spot, and just teams that you're going to have to deal with on a night-to-night basis. And so it is just like, the run it back bit is great, because they just keep running back the same patterns in different. They're like, well, we blame the coach, so we're going to hire a new coach, and then we're going to wait till midseason to make some trades. LeBron and AD, they got to show us that they're worth buying into. And then, I expect that they'll make some moves at the deadline, and then they'll sprint to the finish. And then if they don't win the title, they'll be like, well, we just got to run it back. We didn't have enough continuity.
Is their calendars just off? Like, do they know that like you can do stuff in the offseason? Like,
it's hard.
It is hard. It is very difficult at a time where everybody is doing stuff, that the Lakers are the only team that cannot do stuff.
I did think that it was funny that he's like, we'll be in Vegas in like a week when a lot of the GMs are together, and you could sort of, it's like, do you not have their phone numbers? Lots of GMs get stuff done right now. It's not. They don't all wait till Vegas to sort of get their, they're like, well, the agents are going to be there. Minutes are expensive on your phone plans, like that sort of thing. Like, we're going to see if we can flag him down on the concourse.
Harrison, it's a lot harder for other GMs to block Pelinka's calls when he's standing right in front of them.
That is fair. Honestly, you may have seized on it. They don't want the viral video of them running away from him, so they will make small talk when he's down there.
They have like the world's smallest AirPods in. Just like, Rob was just talking womp 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 womp. So let's talk about the assistant coaches thing and the status of that. And what I've heard so far.
Can I make one more point on Rob before we move on? You complained about how, I apologize for this, and I promise it'll only be a brief
go for it.
Like you complained about sort of the lack of accountability from up top, and how could you let this go on, and how could you let this sort of keep happening, and there are no consequences. Like, at some point you have to almost wonder if Rob Pelinka is serving the exact function that he is requested to. Like, what is an agent? An agent is a lawyer. What is a lawyer? A lawyer is someone to represent your interests and sort of, sometimes do the dirty work and deal with situations that, you don't want to deal with, and take the bullets for that, and be the front facing sort of public spokesman. And, it's like, hey, if the mandate is like, we're not going to go over the second apron, we're not going to, send out all our draft picks, and, because we're worried about what happens after LeBron sort of falls off and AD leaves, and, those sorts of things. Like, and so if the message is like, hey, you just sort of have to go out there and be the meat shield for us, and just talk about how tough it is to make trades, and, say whatever it is that sort of gets you through the press conference, and then we're going to pay you $15 million a year just to sort of, keep taking responsibility for things that we are sort of dictating, and be a company man. Like, Rob's never going going to come out, and he's too good at managing upward. He's never going to come out and be like, well, like Jeanie, they're just sort of spending limits, and there's sort of, there's certain things that we can't spend on as a front office. Like, he's just going to talk about like making up new departments, and that maybe they're, while they don't even have an assistant coaching staff hired, and then just sort of like how hard it is to make trades and how far away draft picks are, and all of this stuff. And so I think on some level, like, he may be serving the exact function they want from him, which is getting everybody mad at him instead of shifting blame upwards.
And I think that's the next step here, right? Is we can't continue to let ownership, like, look, I say this, I say this having never met Jeanie Buss, having never spoke to her. I've only heard things about her secondhand from people who have spent time with her. And the two things that you hear most about Jeanie Buss is, one, she is legitimately too nice to be a billionaire. Like, it is shocking how nice she is, given the wealth that she has at her disposal.
Millionaire.
And like, she is just a very nice, genuine and fiercely loyal friend, right? Those are the things that you hear about Jeanie Buss, the person. It's why I'm rooting for her. Like, people think that like I am anti-Lakers, or I am anti-Jeanie, or I am anti-anything. No, man, I'm a Laker fan, and I'm in this weird place now where I'm like I guess I'm a reporter too. And it is my job to
media personality.
That's it right there. Dave Deckard. That made me laugh out loud. But I like, my job, I think, is to convey to my audience and the people who follow me on Twitter, read my stuff, listen to the show, watch the show. My job is to explain to them, when things go well, why did they go well? When things go poorly, why did they go poorly? How did we arrive here? Right. And so, like, when I hold their feet to the fire, that is simply all that I am doing, is doing exactly what I, a former full-on fan, would have wanted my beat reporters to do back in the day, because that's how these people get held to account. And so, you hear nothing but the best things about Jeanie Buss, the person. And I truly believe those things about Jeanie Buss. I do honestly believe that she is a very nice and genuine person. The other thing that you hear about Jeanie Buss is that she cares, like, fiercely about the Lakers, and all that she wants to do professionally in life is to live up to the expectations, that were bequeathed to her by her dad. Like, she cares, like, astonishingly about the Lakers. The problem is that first thing appears to give her real blind spots and stops her from actually carrying out the second thing there. And in this case, I think she genuinely thinks that Rob Pelinka is the person for the job. And I think she genuinely thinks that the people that she has surrounded herself with are the people for the jobs that they hold. The issue is, she has no experience with other people.
That's not a surprise. That's not a surprise. I mean, like, that's not that, you don't have to source that. Listen to her answers anytime she gets asked about the Rambuses.
Yeah.
Or about Rob.
That's the only time where the fangs really come out, the claws really come out. And again, by the way, like, Harrison, if you probably get all kinds of comments and stuff like that about me, right? And I
always tell the people, like, I think you're being too nice.
Exactly. Well, like, obviously recently something happened where with SB Nation, and I saw comments about you, and I was fucking livid. Like, I did not like seeing those things written about my best friend in this industry. And I wanted to go and strangle the people who were saying these things, in my opinion, unfairly. And I can understand where Jeanie is coming, but this, Harrison, is why you don't do business with friends. You and I, we weren't friends before we started doing the show together. We weren't friends before we started working together. We became friends because we both figured out that we have a lot in common, and we were stuck in that jail cell together at SB Nation, and we got along. And like, the issue is when you go in the order of friends first and then work, and then all of those, like, that's where things get tricky. That's where things get, that's why you don't do business with friends or family, because it is impossible to be unbiased and make non-emotional decisions about those people. And I think when like under any other circumstances, dude, she fired her brother. Like she got her own brother up out of there. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, I don't think she liked her brother.
well, that's the thing, is that like
That's
she
sort of
could be
clear.
more, she could be less
Yeah.
biased about Jim than she is biased about the people that she currently is surrounded by. And that to me is the foundational problem with the Lakers right now, is that the person at the very top of the organization is incapable of being honest with herself about the job that the people that she employs are doing. And unless, like you're talking about, Harrison, I think this is the only kind of theory that is plausible here, unless that main person is actually doing what she actually wants him to do. That being, just get through these next couple of years. Don't push more chips into the pot, and then let's rebuild and rebound whenever LeBron retires and Anthony Davis is gone, and we no longer have to kowtow to Clutch. Now, how they function after that, I am legitimately terrified by, having
Or,
seen all of this, but still.
I think that's fair. The other thing that I would say is that, I mean, it's, hey, like, let's keep our assets so that, when the slates are clean and when sort of the LeBron retirement tour runs dry, like, we can sell the team. And, we aren't out as many assets. And maybe that makes a difference in the bid. I mean, maybe not that much. I can't imagine. Like, if the Lakers ever came up for sale, they could be out like, 7 years of draft picks and they would still fetch several $billions. But,
Yes.
it's all about sort of, greasing the wheels in these transactions and, setting it up so that it's like, hey, you can come in and spend your money on 3 max free agents and make your big swings. And yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's really quickly, I know people are asking a lot, and I'll go into the star comments here in a little bit, but I'll really quickly update the two main things that I'm sure people care about the most. One being the roster. Like, they aren't actually going to run it back. I was told the other night that internally it would be seen as a real surprise and disappointment if the Lakers ran last season back. That is not something that they want to do internally. They want out of the D'Angelo Russell business. They know that there are needs across the roster. They need more two-way help, and they know that they need to go out and get it. But like you said, Harrison, and like we've all noticed, they are very reluctant to part with first-round draft picks for non-superstars. And so that's where things stand right now. So like when it comes to Jeremy Grant, there is no real update there. The Lakers are offering X, Y, and Z. The Lakers are basically offering some combination of either Rui and Gabe and a first, or D'Lo and Gabe and a first, and maybe some additional draft compensation from there for Jeremy Grant. And Portland wants both of those picks. And from Portland's perspective, the Lakers are the more desperate team, so they're going to continue to sit this one. They're going to continue to sit there, and they're going to wait. I'm told that right after the Lakers struck out on Klay Thompson, that actually Portland reached back out to the Lakers to be like, hey, what's up? Understanding that in that moment they may make a desperate trade or whatever. And look, like, that is one of the nice things. If you have a front office executive in place who knows that his job is safe, he doesn't have to make those desperation trades or whatever that he views as desperation trades.
And I will say, to his credit, he should not be giving up 2 first-round picks for Jeremy Grant. Like, that would be insane.
Yeah.
As much as we've made fun of him for, like, not getting stuff done and talking about how hard his job is, like, if that's the price to get Jeremy Grant, then Jeremy Grant should not be a Laker. Like, that's crazy. On that contract, especially. It's not about the player. It's about how much he's going to be paid. And the fact that basically that would mean that all 3 of your top paid players all are best at power forward, according to either the metrics or themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And like in all fairness, I always talk to you guys about how I have Lakers sourcing and I have league sourcing. A, we know that the Lakers feel that way because they haven't given 2 first-round picks up for Jeremy Grant. B, most of the people that I talk to around the league actually agree that Jeremy Grant isn't worth 2 first-round picks because of that contract. And frankly, because of the bad habits that he has developed over the last couple of circumstances that he's played under. In Detroit, he got the ball, he got to shoot.
He's not a wing anymore. He's just like, he's not that level of defender.
Yeah. And so, I that's where things stand with Jeremy Grant. Same goes for Brooklyn. And by the way, this is how this is going to go with all of the players that the Lakers are interested in.
I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you because there was that report that the Bulls are even willing to move a first to get off the Lavine contract. Like, I'm just saying, like, would you rather have a first than Zach Lavine or give up a first for Jeremy Grant? Like, I would rather do the Lavine trade in that case. Well, if you're getting a first back.
That's where I wish the Lakers would pick a direction.
Yeah.
Like that, I would love it for the Lakers.
Like, Lavine to basically is probably a better fit with this roster than Jeremy Grant is.
Maybe his
contract is horrendous. Don't get me wrong, and he has injury history. Like, this is not me being like, go get Zach Lavine or you're a fraud. That's why you can get
a first rounder with him.
It's exactly. It's like that would be to me a better acquisition than using a first to go get Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, well, 2 firsts. You wouldn't give up a first for Jeremy Grant?
I would rather take a first than get Zach Lavine, to be honest. I'm not that big of a Grant guy. I think he's kind of washed.
No, I actually think that there are cases to be made for Lavine. Like, if people are saying I'm sleeping on Lavine, I'm really not. Like, if you can get a first rounder,
this is not me coming out as a Zach Lavine stan. Like, I don't think he's that great. I don't think that he's really proven that he can impact winning all that much. But neither is Jeremy Grant. And they're on like equally bad contracts.
Yeah, I put together a trade where the Lakers, I think it's like, let me find it. Shoot. It's like
you got to ban that. You got to ban this Eric guy. He's
Dion Waiters for LA. I don't know what. I think it's funny. No, I asked. So I think it was. Now they would have to, I believe, get under the first apron to get this done, and Rob or LeBron would have to take a pay cut to get under the first apron to get this done. But the Lakers essentially would trade D'Lo, Gabe, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and one of their minimums. And that is enough money to bring back Lavine. And if you get a first rounder with those players or with Lavine, and that, like, Lavine is a high upside play. He brings a skill set that the Lakers do need. And you get that first round pick. Like, I actually really
make threes.
And all that you're giving up Gabe Vincent, who didn't give you anything last season. You're giving up D'Angelo Russell, who you don't want on your roster next year. You're giving up Jalen Hood-Schifino, who isn't even available and ready to play in summer league this season.
And you're giving up one of your, if he's healthy.
Yeah, and then you're giving up one of your veteran minimum contracts, which you need to get rid of anyway. So like and you get a first rounder back, even if it's a protected first round pick, I would take it. I think that's the direction that I would probably go in. But the problem is that the Lakers need direction, and the way that this is a combination of reporting, and this is some speculation on my part. But it really seems to me, Harrison, after that Russell Westbrook trade backfired so disastrously, that everybody in that organization is afraid to make any big decision whatsoever. And especially if it can be
without being clear that they can blame it on someone else.
Right. Especially if it can be traced back to them. And that's where, that's where the Lakers are really feeling it right now. That everything that they do is paralysis by analysis. It's why it took 2 months basically to hire JJ Redick.
It's 8 people sitting in a room being like, well, what do you think, to the person to the right of them?
No, it's 5 people in a room, right? It's Rob, Kurt, Linda, Jeanie, and Tim. So it's 5 people in a room. They were like, so what do you think?
I think the Plus Bros are usually in there now, aren't they? Or at least that's what they tried to sell us last summer. I guess maybe not.
We've heard a lot less about that this year. From what I've heard, they've really kind of circled the wagons, and they want all information going through those 5 people to try to, clamp down links and leaks.
As I call them, the Pentagon.
um, so yeah, Grant still a staring contest. Brooklyn also still a staring contest. Brooklyn wants a first rounder for Dorian Finney-Smith. The Lakers don't want to do that. Brooklyn wants a first round pick and then some for. I don't think they want 2 picks for Cam Johnson. I don't think they can realistically ask for that. But the Lakers don't want to give up, I don't think, even a first round pick for Cam Johnson. So that's where things stand with Brooklyn. I'd heard that they have put in a call to Toronto about Bruce Brown. Same issue that you run into, though. They want a first round pick for Bruce Brown. And I don't think the Lakers want to give up a first round pick for Bruce Brown. And that's put X name out there. And either that team wants Austin Reeves, which is a non-starter with the Lakers, or they want a first round pick. And the Lakers are really, really holding on to that first round pick. Now on the coaching search and on the assistant coaching search, that's been even like, of the things that are reflections of the state of things in the Lakers organization, this is the big one.
Can I jump in here, because you're gonna, I know you have a lot of info and stuff, but can I just say that my observation from watching that press conference today, the fact that JJ said he can't coach summer league because he's busy hiring a coaching staff, like that should give you as big a, Anthony doesn't need to source anything for you to know that that's been difficult. If he's like, I can't spend a couple hours out of my day coaching the summer rookies because I need to be on the phone with assistant coaches trying to hire them.
Yeah. I can go through the list really quickly. So initially, the list that the Lakers wanted were James Borrego, who did not get a head coaching job this year. He did the full Vinny Del Negro this year. Just tough offseason for James.
If you get outbid for an assistant by the Pelicans, that's rough.
Well, I don't even know if I would say that they got outbid. They have Borrego under contract, and New Orleans.
All right, never mind then.
Weren't going to let Borrego out of his deal to make a lateral move. He's already the associate head coach in New Orleans.
Especially
so Borrego was off of the board.
Probably.
What's that?
Especially not to the Lakers, probably.
Yeah, also that. So then Jared Dudley is another one who loves it in Dallas, gets paid better in Dallas than he would make in LA. And
if you want to find out why, Google Dallas Mavericks owners. And
yeah. So he winds up staying there. I believe he and the Lakers spoke, and it became clear very quickly that that Dudley was going to stay in Dallas. Sam Cassell was never really a realistic option because Boston won a championship, so that's going to, and has the same team, almost literally the same team back next year. And Cassell is going to get a promotion to coach that same team next year. Will probably get a head coaching gig either sometime during the season next year or after next season. So he was never really an option. The Lakers have tried now 3 different times to try to hire Terry Stotts. He has turned them down every single time. He, according to Adrian Wojnarowski today, took a gig with the Golden State Warriors to replace Kenny Atkinson there.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. Typically pay their assistant coaches very, very well. And
very well.
I would imagine that was sort of like the golden chair that every assistant coach was sort of, fighting for. Like they were all sort of waiting to see like, okay, who's going to get the big high paid job next to Steve,
Yep.
Yeah.
So Terry Stotts not an option. I believe the Lakers briefly considered Jerry Stackhouse, but he was, I think it looked like he was going to take a gig with Golden State fairly, that was where that was kind of always heading. Let's see, who else was it? Jacques Vaughn. We're still waiting for an update there, but if you throw his name out there and it's been this long, probably not going very well. That's speculation on my part. What isn't speculation on my part is that they spoke to Dwayne Casey, who is a consultant with the Detroit Pistons. He actually turned down a job with Chicago earlier this year or earlier this summer, and then also turned down the Lakers. He is not coming based on...
See, the reason that I couldn't... Well, actually, no, that's good on him for work-life balance. Like, I don't even understand why these guys that have, like, a cushy front office consulting job like he has, where it's like, hey, you show up once a week and you just kind of are like, yeah, I think the team's playing bad. Like, why would you want to go back to being on the bench?
Yeah.
It's the Kurt Rambis thing. I get it. Yeah.
I was joking with a source a few days ago because they were asking like, well, what about Dwayne Casey? And I was like, if he has a front office job, it's kind of like Kurt Rambis is never going to take the demotion to coach. Why would Kurt Rambis do that?
That's what I've been saying since forever. It's like, why would he take a demotion when people bring him up, even as a joke?
Yeah. And then Brad Turner reported today that they are speaking, or they're hoping or looking to speak with Alvin Gentry. There's a possibility there. Scott Brooks is also still on the table.
Does seem, I mean, I'm not as into the weeds on this as Kranjis, but like, so he would be able to tell you like what scheme Alvin Gentry's all of his teams have run. My understanding is that he's had some pretty great offenses as a lead assistant offensive coordinator.
Yeah, no, that's why he's had 2 head coaching opportunities.
At least.
He coached with Phoenix and then he coached with New Orleans.
And the Kings, I believe.
Oh, maybe the Kings too. I don't remember him with the Kings, but was he an interim with the Kings? Was he full? I don't
Possibly.
Know. But so essentially, the Lakers, they haven't hired an assistant coach to this point. And the reason that I keep hearing about is that, one, good assistant coaches with good jobs don't want to go to a situation that is as volatile as the Lakers is. And 2, the Lakers don't pay well, like even just raw numbers compared to the rest of the league. The Lakers pay less than, most teams in the NBA to assistant coaches, unless they're like former head coaches. I guess David Fizdale, got a pretty good contract while he was with the Lakers. And they had Lionel Hollins also got paid fairly well. Oh, Jason Kidd got paid really well compared to other assistant coaches. So there are times where they will pony up, but that's where that first point really becomes important, right? That the situation is so volatile that, like, if you're an assistant coach and you see the Lakers fire one head coach a couple of years after winning a championship, and you fire another head coach a year after making the Western Conference Finals, all of these
and red-wedding his entire staff. That
too. Oof, man, that was. I was asking about Phil Handy, and it was like, no, he's probably not coming back. And then, so with these assistant coaches, they understand that their job security is typically tied to the head coach. And if the head coach doesn't, if an organization shows that it doesn't value head coaching, then they for damn sure aren't going to value assistant coaching. And when that organization tells those assistant coaches they don't value assistant coaches because they don't pay them, again, not just compared to the rest of the league, but also especially when you consider how expensive it is to live in Southern California, like, a lot of these assistant coaches have basically said, like, yeah, that's interesting, and we're good. We're not interested. And I know people are saying, like, there's a theory out there that because JJ Redick got the job the way that he did, that like coaches are kind of holding out on JJ Redick. I don't get the sense that it is JJ specific. It's more the organization. It's more.
I did wonder about that. If it was a little bit of like wait, why did this guy get the job? Like, I don't want to go work for him.
I'm sure that with some coaches, like, there is that to a certain extent, but I think the much bigger problem are the 2 things that I talked about, that like, they don't pay very well, and you may only get like a year or 2 there, no matter whether you succeed or not. Like, that's the part of it that like is really difficult for these assistant coaches to get up and move their lives to this very, very expensive state. Like, it's hard to convince coaches to go there. So, when it comes to this off season, I don't know, man. It really feels like this is the off season in which the fans really found out. Now, look, I would love nothing more than to wake up tomorrow and see that the Lakers absolutely killed the rest of free agency, absolutely killed the rest of their trade options and all of that stuff, and this podcast aged really, really poorly. That would be great. I would love it. Just don't think it's in the cards. But still, like, this is the offseason that I feel like everybody and fans especially have been able to see that, oh shit, the emperor wears no clothes. Like, this is just a everybody's kind of seeing, like, man, this is This is how you guys live? Like, this is really this is the team that we're rooting for? Like, this is the core decision making group of this team? Like, what is going on here? So yeah, I don't know, man. I wish, like I always say, I wish I had better things to say about the situation. I wish I had better things to report on the situation. I just don't. I just don't have very, like, there just isn't a bunch of good stuff out there. I was reluctant to dunk on the Clippers for entertaining Miles Bridges today because I think it's really possible that the Lakers might turn around and do it too.
I would be sort of floored if they aren't linked to him eventually.
Yeah.
Given their
although
history,
I will say that, like,
his representation.
It does sound, based on some of the people that you talk to around the league, that like Rich is trying to drum up a market for Bridges, who doesn't have much of a market, like, in general, but especially at the number he's looking for. So you kind of have that going too. But yeah, I just, it's just not great, man. Like, the vibes are in the dirt. The organization that we all really love and care about, or loved, I guess, and cared about, is just, it's on its last legs. It's Viserys Targaryen in the final episode of last season of House of Dragon, where
when his face is falling off.
Yeah, he's missing an eye, missing all his teeth, and he's just kind of whittling away. Like, right now, it just doesn't. The Lakers, at one point, this is the analogy I always use. At one point, the Lakers were solid gold as an organization, right? At one point, if you looked at the Lakers, like when they were at their absolute peak, Jerry West was walking those halls. Bill Sharman was still walking those halls. Jerry Buss was in his prime as well. And Mitch Kupchak was being groomed, I guess, at different points of it too. Like, that was when the Lakers were at their absolute peak, was, when you could, you could chip away at the gold. You could lose a piece of the gold there. You lose Pat Riley. You're still okay because at your core, it's still kind of golden. But right now, they're gold plated, and eventually that fades.
Like a Cheesecake Factory dining room,
Yeah, it's just, and I think people are starting to see the little fading that you see on gold plated stuff. You start to see the way that is aging, because at the core of that item, it is a completely different metal that is trying to show out and get past that gold that is currently plating it. And I wish I had better things to say. I wish I had a better reading of the situation, but that's just the reality that we currently sit in. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the super comments here. Harrison, I know that you said you had an hour. You could peace out if you want. We have a bunch of these, so this is probably going to take a little while. So it's your call.
No, I'm sticking it out.
Oh God! All right. Let's go back to these star comments, and as always, thank you for these. I just, it blows me away that you guys support the show in this way. Please do, while you guys are here. We have 4,500 people apparently watching this thing between Twitter and YouTube. Please do subscribe here on YouTube, and then if you guys are watching live on Twitter, please do head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge, and then I'm going to turn around and post this as soon as it is edited as well, for you guys in the morning. So if you guys are listening to this in pod form, please subscribe to everywhere that you get this podcast, or wherever you get your podcast, preferably on Odyssey. All right, first,
I will say, for those of you watching on YouTube, as a treat, Anthony has told me that he is willing to show feet for tips, and so if you just just got to mark it as such.
No,
but he's willing to. He'll get him up there on the webcam for you. So
I played soccer for like 13 years, and I played basketball. I played basketball for like 20 years. You do not want to see these feet.
If I just got this episode demonetized, I do apologize. I'm sorry.
All right, Vinny Josh starts us off with any more intel on the Grant side or the trade front? The Lakers plan to do something. Do they know free agency opened up? The number of people who are legitimately wondering at this point if the Lakers know that free agency started is hilarious. Like, I find it deeply, deeply funny. Sad, but funny.
Yeah, I mean, it was one thing when you made the jokes on Sunday, and it's like, well, maybe they do still think it starts on July 1st. But now, it's July 2nd now. So
I went over the trade stuff. Nothing more really as of right now, right? As I always say, whenever I report stuff, that is as of 8:02 Pacific time. That 8:02 Pacific time on July 2nd. That as it stands right now, there are no real developments there. And look, I will say this, I guess, about the on the trade front. On one hand, you need to get something done because the free agency market on the other side of that trade, if you do send out more players than you take back, the free agency market is kind of drying up. So you need something done relatively soon. But if it comes down to like, are you so desperate to give up 2 first-round picks for Jeremy Grant right now? I don't think they are at that point of desperation right now.
I would hope not.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I'm going to blame you if they do. You were so mean to them that Rob, making fun of you're calling him Sleepy Rob, that.
You had me give Sleepy Rob. No, he's Disney Rob. You know what I really want to have happen, Harrison? You know how like they'll send out like pictures of like a thing that happens on the screen that is like a little too big, like and they'll say like for every 15 likes this gets, I'll make that thing bigger and bigger and bigger. I want somebody to put Disney ears on Rob Pelinka in that picture and then say, for every 15 likes this get, I'll make those ears bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because I find that picture just hilarious. And I find the way that like the things that people do with those pictures even funnier. All right. Justin Tyndall writes, Jeanie runs this clown show. What do you expect when you hire somebody that's not qualified? Won't be refreshing Twitter constantly next free agency. I'll just watch the next Lakers Lounge. I appreciate that for one.
That's the way to take in free agency to me.
The only way.
That's the only way I do it.
It has been funny to watch, and I understand why people were skeptical in the first place of me trying dipping my toe into the reporting waters and stuff. Like I understand fully, having been skeptical of other people when they were dipping those toes into those waters as well. But it has been funny to see people kind of realize, oh fuck, this guy kind of knows stuff. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
He's a different, it's like I'm a different guy now than I was 6 months ago.
These comments never used to be filled with people asking for Anthony, any news on this front. So it's sort of been incredible to come back and, it's like walking in, like somebody remodeled your old house. You're like, oh man, this is an insider show now.
Yeah. Or like, have you ever seen somebody after a long time, after they lose a bunch of weight, or like they get hair plugs and you're like, whoa, look at that. Wow. You look great. And it I always feel like with
Rob with and without the hair gel, it's like, oh man, look at him now.
Right guy. Any chances LBJ walks on max / flexes? It seems that bad. I did have an interesting scenario painted out to me by regular listener Brian Fritz, who was like, what if LeBron just wants to play with Bronny 1 year and then retires after the year? It's like, I wouldn't put anything past LeBron at this point.
Yeah.
I think the people who will wind up being the wrongest about LeBron are the people who think they know definitively what he's getting ready to do. Like those are the people who
I just think he's going to sign something before Team USA training camp. There's no way he goes into that without a contract at his age.
Yeah, well, no, I think Woj and Haynes reported that he's giving them a week. Basically, there's you need to get something done
with USA camp.
Yeah. And I don't think it was a coincidence. John Sotelo writes, the Clippers are going to pull off getting Miles Bridges in a sign and trade with Powell and Russ. Warriors got Stack. You can't send out 2 players in a sign and trade. Warriors got Stackhouse and Stotts, and the Lakers are barely interested in Gentry. Well, Gentry is like the 3rd round of assistant coach candidates. Like this is they've been turned down by enough people that they're like, shit, who else can we talk to?
Yeah.
It's just,
How many weeks until we get like Tommy Alter, impress the Lakers with sort of his, his know-how in one of these interviews?
or like Pete, or Darius, like
We are probably like 2 bad weeks on the coaching market away from like Coach Pete behind the bench assistant, like not front of bench, but like behind, like he's there. He's like in charge of the challenges.
the thing about Pete is he is so fiery that like if the second any kind of scrum happens, I feel like he's jumping right over those chairs and he's just fighting people. Like I love Pete.
Yeah.
He's just so fiery that I could totally see that happening. He, by the way, has coaching experience. I think he coached coached a high school program.
Higher level coaching experience than JJ. Yeah.
Yeah. So do I actually and like, Pete, I think would be a legitimately good coach. Like, yeah, I could see him like really doing really well in a coaching setting. I love that dude. All right. Brandon Omang writes, Trent for the MLE and trade D'Lo, GV, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, and JHS, and a first for Grant and Time Lord. So I was asking around a little bit today to see how Portland views Time Lord. And from Portland's perspective, the consensus that I got was that there's no point in trading low, like selling low on Rob Williams. He's been hurt a bunch. He didn't play at all last year. There's no point in selling low on him right now when you're going to be bad anyway. So you want to see him get out to the floor. You want him to prove to people that he can still play. And if he gets hurt again, then you're just right back where you were right now. So if the Lakers are willing to offer legit value for him, then sure, maybe. But as it stands right now, I don't think he's like the throw in the people that Rob Williams is kind of seen as right now. Justin Tyndall writes, Magic, Pelinka, Phil Jackson ran by Mike K from Duke. That's a dream team. Do other front offices have the locked on Lakers Clippers laughing intro when they hear the phone ringing and see it's Pelinka? That would be funny. Like, I do. Like I've said this before, people always say it's a Lakers tax. I'm curious on your reaction on this, Harrison. People always complain about the Lakers tax, but I'm pretty sure it's a Rob tax.
Like, I think it's probably a bit of both, but I think it's more of a Rob tax, to be honest.
Yeah. He's like,
he's not like, I know Lakers fans don't want to hear this and they think that this is unfair and it's just the league being haters or whatever. And, no other agent has been treated so unfairly or whatever. But like, team, like you ask around, like there are not very many people that like Rob or have a high opinion of him.
Yeah. Well, it's also the way that he goes about these negotiations that they aren't negotiations. Here's our price. No. All right. Hang up the phone. We'll move on to the next team. And that's just not how deals
works
get
when
done.
When you're an agent for a star player seeking a max contract. That works less well when you're having to collaborate with someone to try and make both your teams better.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want the other side of the negotiation to feel like you don't want the other side of a negotiation to feel like you are trying to screw them over. You want it to feel somewhat collaborative, the way that, like, I grew up in sales. What you want to do is basically, if you're in a negotiation, you want to get what you need out of the negotiation, but you want that person to also feel like they won, because that increases the possibility that that person is going to do business with you again. And from the Lakers' perspective, I don't think people walk away from their conversations with Rob that way. The other thing too is, like, I've heard he's a liar. Like I've heard that, like, people just feel like they don't feel like he is being honest with them at any real point. And that's also a really difficult way to
just watch any of his pressers. He does not come off as very genuine.
Yeah. Like saying that, like, JJ Redick spontaneously started drawing up plays because they drafted a white shooter. Like, what? Yeah. No, he didn't. Nobody believes that. There's no point in lying there. So anyway. All right. John,
well, I actually do have to go now. So I'm going. I thought I was going to hold out, but
there's a lot of these. I'm going to be here a little while. But Harrison, thank you a ton for hopping on. And we will talk to you in a couple weeks.
All right. See you guys.
All right. John Sotelo writes, Rob is kicking the can down the road, suggesting moves might happen in a summer league 2 weeks after free agency started. Is Braun really waiting until then? I don't think Braun is going anywhere this offseason. The Lakers have maintained the utmost confidence that he is sticking around. They drafted his son. They hired his co-host. I would be pretty surprised if and the Lakers would be absolutely shocked, blown away, shocked if LeBron doesn't remain with the Lakers. And the other thing too here is you got to think about this from a business perspective for LeBron. Lakers fans are the biggest NBA fan base in the world. When we feel like we are being met halfway, we show out for that player. That's why you've seen so many former Lakers become incredible business people. They, we lift people's brands and players that we love's brands to a certain status that, like, if you're LeBron and you piece out on the Lakers and you risk pissing off this fan base, that's a real hit to your business interests. And I don't think he wants to risk that. So I don't think LeBron is going anywhere. I do think he's probably pretty annoyed with how things have played out here. But I would be pretty shocked if LeBron isn't the Laker next season. I hope I'm saying this right. Yavon Martin is my guess. I hope I'm saying that right, Yavon. Rumor has it the Rockets don't want to extend Şengün. Is it possible for the Lakers? No, because they may not want to extend Şengün at the number that he's looking for, but they also don't want to give him away to anybody before they actually have to. I don't think Şengün. I think Şengün was available if Kevin Durant was on the table, but I don't think that he's available just to trade him so that you don't have to pay him. John Sotelo again. Rob is kicking down the road. Okay, so this is a repeat of the last question. Justin Tyndall, the South Bay video coordinator, is a summer league assistant. Cool. I do think it's a legitimate missed opportunity here from JJ to not coach in summer league. I understand he has other things going on. I understand hiring his assistant coaching staff has not gone well, but I think it's a pretty big mistake for him to not want to see the game from that vantage point before next year's preseason games. I hope that he changes his tune maybe in Vegas compared to the California Classic or Orlando. Tyler McPherson, doing this essentially because you've nailed everything so far. Stein, Haynes, etc. have all piggybacked what you've said. No, I appreciate it, man. This has been really, really fun and eye-opening getting into the reporting business. Might have some news on that front here pretty soon, but I appreciate the support, Tyler. I really, really do. And I like I said to everybody who continues to support not just my ventures, but the Coach's Den and All Access Lakers, and the people I really care about, like Raj and Harrison and all of that. You guys mean the world to us and especially to me. German Rather writes, growing more and more doubtful that the Lakers make any moves at all. Watch it come out that D'Lo receives an extension. I don't think he'll receive an extension. The Lakers, if they enter the season with D'Angelo Russell, they want to be able to trade him and that expiring contract at some point in the season. So I would be pretty surprised if D'Lo A enters the season a Laker and B gets an extension that would make it more difficult to trade him. Justin Tyndall again, just wait for Jeanie to say the free agency move of the summer was JJ, like she always said with Ham. Yeah, I mean, the spin is going to be great. Actually, I should have talked to Harrison on the air about doing a bingo episode of the offseason from here on out once we see more about the moves or whatever. Maybe I'll just get him quickly to record a bingo segment. That'd be great. I get boards for days, writes, what is the latest in the Jeremy Grant trade talks? And do you think it could be done in the next week? It could. I think the Lakers would have to sweeten the pot. And that's where I get kind of frustrated with the Lakers is that, it's like I said earlier with Rob, he calls, he makes an offer. And if that offer isn't taken, that's kind of the end of the conversation based off of what you hear about him around the league. And, if Portland is sitting there waiting for you to sweeten the pot, then find ways to sweeten the pot. Find all right, You aren't going to get another first rounder, but how many second rounders is worth a first to you? Are you interested? I guess they can't trade Dalton Connect for 30 days because he just signed a contract to be able to play in Summer League. But like, are you interested in pick swaps? Are you interested? Like, what is it that we can do to sweeten the pot so that you feel like you are getting what you want so that we get what we need? And that's where I think Rob is really kind of lacking as an executive. Matthew writes, why are giraffes so slow to apologize? Because it takes them a long time to swallow their pride. That was a great comment for while Harrison was here. Unfortunately, I you know what? Maybe I'll just send him that. You know what? I'm gonna here's that is not what I'm gonna do because because apparently I'm just gonna get kicked out of the show. But no, I am going to send him that question and make sure he sees that question because of his very, very long neck. All right. John Sotelo writes, Rob needs to learn to hawk Tua. No comment. I get boards for days. Asks again, have you heard any trade talks between Utah? So Utah right now and Golden State are or have been maintaining trade talks for Lauri Markkanen, and we'll see where those kind of go. And I think that is Utah's top priority right now. And then from what I have heard, the Lakers and called the Jazz previously about D'Angelo Russell and what they could get for D'Angelo Russell. And what the Jazz would be interested in sending over. We know that Rob and Danny Ainge have made deals in the past together, so I'm sure that they're in some trade talks there. It's just that right now Utah has higher priorities than the Lakers right now. Justin Tyndall writes, Lavine has 3 years left. Braun wants a 3-year deal, would have heaps of cap space after both deals expire. Yeah, again, like I really think people need to take that Zach Lavine scenario more seriously, even if it isn't a first round pick or even if it's a highly protected first round pick. I would just like teams are kind of gambling and fading the Lakers without LeBron James. If I were the Lakers, I think it's a good move to fade the Chicago Bulls because their ownership is really bad. So I personally would also like be in the business of trying to get my hands on Chicago Bulls draft capital because I don't trust where they're ever going. The only time they've mattered really was when Michael was there. They ran him out of town, and then they've sucked ever since, basically, with a couple flurries here and there. I would very much be interested if Portland holds fast to the first round pick thing, and continues to demand that the Lakers give up 2 for Jeremy Grant. I would just call Chicago and see if they're actually willing to attach a first rounder to get off of that Zach Lavine contract. Matthew writes, how is Time Lord going to get playing time with Ayton and the Mountain Klingon there? Seems expendable to me. Yeah, I agree. But the problem is, A, the league sees it that way, and B, the Portland Trailblazers know the league sees it that way, and they don't feel like they need to sell low on Rob Williams while they are going to suck anyway. And honestly, it's sound logic. It really, really is. Sharif, I'm guessing, hey, Anthony, keep up the good work. Any news about a potential Jazz Lakers trade? Yeah, like I said a second ago, there are talks that have gone on between the two sides. I haven't been able to narrow down who the Lakers are really kind of focused on. At the time, it was kind of more moving off of D'Lo. But now I think the Lakers recognize that they really need to do something on the trade market, and they need to get something back for D'Angelo Russell's expiring contract. So we'll kind of see what comes there. They have a very loaded front court too. If they don't move Lauri, they have Lauri. They have Filipowski that they just drafted. They have Walker Kessler, who needs minutes there as well. So at some point, they're going to have to make a big decision in that front court. And depending on what that decision is, I would expect the Lakers to maybe get involved there because they also need to upgrade their at least backup center spot, if not their starting actual center spot, to move AD to the 4, which I've heard that they're potentially interested in doing. It's just really difficult to do now given the market. Vinny Jaj writes, have the Lakers considered Gary Trent Jr. and would LeBron be okay with it? Yeah, I don't see why LeBron would be not okay with Gary Trent Jr. Apparently he is on the Milwaukee Bucks radar right now. And so the Lakers would have competition to sign him. It's like I said earlier, though, with all of the free agents, you contact their agent and you tell the agent, hey, we're interested in your client. The agent looks at the roster and says, how? Go do the work that you need to do and then come back to me and we can figure something out. And I think you saw some of that with Klay Thompson. I think more of that was just him choosing the Mavericks over the Lakers, which is kind of disappointing and depressing to say out loud anyway. But for all of these agents and all of these free agents, the longer that the Lakers wait and drag their feet on moving some of their the guys who opted into their player options, moving D'Angelo Russell, consolidating their wing depth or whatever, the longer that takes, the less opportunity you're going to have with some of these other free agents because that market is going to dry up. All right. That is going to do it here for this very, very long episode of the Lakers Lounge. Again, shouts to Harrison for sticking around as long as he did. Shouts to all of you for all of the great questions and super comments. You guys are the absolute best. I'm going to, like I said, and as I always do this time of year, I don't schedule this out for the morning like I do normally. This is going to go right up onto the pod feed. So if you missed any of it and you just want to catch it like in audio form, that'll be on the Lakers Lounge podcast feed, which again, you can get everywhere. Another reminder, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Please head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge if you're watching on Twitter and subscribe there. And until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you when I talk to you.